Hi, I'm Joey Lott, and in today's video, I'm going to speak about comparing your experience with other people's experiences. And this is a really interesting subject. Somebody asked me to make a video on this subject, and there are several facets to it that I'd like to explore, and let's see if I can remember them. Most likely, I won't. So the first thing is that uh, I've certainly have had plenty of experience of wanting to have a different experience. And I think that's fundamentally what this comparison comes down to. Because I can only speak of my experience, and my experience has been that if I am saying that I want somebody else's experience, or I'm comparing my experience to somebody else's experience, or even my experience to some prior experience, or what I imagine might be some future experience, in all of these cases, if I take a look, what I'm fundamentally really concerned with is trying to get rid of this experience right now. So I would just invite you to take a look at that for yourself, just to take a look at, in any situation, if you are comparing your experience to somebody else's, then just take a look. What is it that you're really interested in? And I think there's a very high likelihood that if you really are honest, what you'll see is that you're looking to get rid of your current experience. And like I say, this has been my experience at least, so I'll just say that. So when I've been interested in trying to get rid of my experience or change my experience or something, there's a dissatisfaction with what's happening. And that dissatisfaction, if I really take a look at it, is a resistance. This is my experience, is that there's a resistance to what's happening right now. There's a sense that what's happening right now is not okay. It's dangerous. I might not rationally believe that it's dangerous, but there is a felt sense that this is dangerous. This is not okay. This is not tolerable. And I can't allow for it. So I start coming up with strategies. And one of those strategies is imagine some other possible experience. And that's why, to me, it doesn't really matter if it's somebody else's experience, a future potential experience, or a past experience. In any case, it's not the immediate, direct experience of what's happening right now. So I would, if it was me, I would just take a look. What is it? How am I doing this resistance? You see, the fixation on the stories about how it should be, how I can achieve that. So-and-so says that it's possible. This spiritual teacher has promised me enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Is that teacher really enlightened? Is that teacher really trustworthy? Who can I trust? What experience should I pursue? All of that is a distraction from the only thing that's actually happening right now, which is just this experience as it is. So instead of focusing on that, I would just take a look. And to be clear, I don't see that any of that is wrong. It's also included, but it's, you see, very narrow. And it's very contracted. It's very tense. It's very unpleasant. So I would just take a look. What's actually happening? And in terms of what's happening in particular, I would be interested in there's a compulsion that is driving this movement to focus or fixate on the story, the comparison of this experience with another experience. So this compulsion, which drives that fixation, is what I would be very interested in. And I would just take a look to see, what is this compulsion? What is its nature? How does it work? What are the mechanics of it? Because we all have the experience of the compulsion. We all know what it's like to feel compelled to fixate on a particular thought or storyline. But do we actually take a look at what is this compulsion? What is its actual nature? What is the actual thing that's happening here? So I would take a look at that. And what I've found is that that compulsion is a contraction. It is tension. It is resistance. It is, even though it's largely unconscious, it is in fact something voluntary. So I would then be further curious to know, well, what happens if I relax that tension? And this tends to expose what's underneath that, which is I often call it a vulnerability. It's to be boundless. It's to be as you are, to be innocent, to be unguarded. And of course, this feels dangerous because that's our conditioning. It feels very dangerous. But there is no apparent danger, so I would just be continuously curious about that. What happens if I just allow this vulnerability? What happens if I just allow for this unarmored experience just as it is? Just to find out. And you see, all of this, it starts with this inquiry into comparison of experience, my experience with another experience. And it seems as though, on the surface, that there's something there to solve. Is this experience better than that experience? How could I know whether that's a better experience or a worse experience? But what I find is that just by taking a look at what's actually happening, pulling back the layers, then it's just sort of becomes evident that none of that needs any particular attention. I don't need to fight with it. I don't need to get rid of it. I don't need to ignore it, but I just don't need to give it any particular attention. And I can just allow what's happening. So I did say that there are a couple of different facets to this. So another facet to this is that we can become very concerned about, is there another experience possible? So that we're concerned to know, maybe there is a better experience to be had. These people promise it. They say, if I do what they suggest, then I'll have this better experience. And so, as I've already suggested, if you peel back the layers and you just take a look at what's actually happening, that tends to not seem so important any longer. But at the same time, what may become apparent, possibly, is that this whole notion of possession of experience and of defining experience, to say this experience versus another experience, becomes a little bit difficult to believe. Because if you tell me of your experience, it just becomes obvious to me, as I just allow what's happening without giving any particular attention to any of it, just allow the fullness and totality of it, becomes obvious that this is all that is, and that the idea of something else is appearing in this, as this. And the appeal of something else just falls away, in my experience. You can see that the language is funny here because I continue to qualify all of this and say my experience versus what? Versus your experience. So superficially, it seems like there's a contradiction there. But I don't think it's so much a contradiction as it's a paradox. And you can't resolve a paradox, but you can soften the context. You see, if the context is very narrow, very armored, very contracted, then a paradox seems to be a contradiction. But if you just soften that for a moment, and you just take a look at what's really happening, and you just, for a moment, let go of all of the armoring that defines you and your experience versus other and other experience, then the context is opened wide up. And this whole idea of my experience versus your experience, the possession of experience, doesn't make any sense. So I hope this video has been helpful to you, and as I said, this video was a response to a request. If you ever have a subject that you'd like me to make a video on, or if you have a question you'd like me to address in a video, please feel free to contact me. The best way to do that is by email, and my address is joeylott@gmail.com. That's JOEYLOTT@gmail.com. If you're watching this on Facebook, then please like my page. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. And if you're watching this anywhere, wherever that may be, please visit my website, which is joeylott.com, and sign up for whatever free offer I have available. As I'm recording this, it is a free introductory e-course to what I call radical self-acceptance. Thank you, and I'll see you next time I do a video. Bye for now.